The Galactic Council had 3 rules for trading with primitive species. Rule 1, no advanced weaponry. Rule 2, no technology exceeding their natural development curve. Rule 3, absolutely under no circumstances give humans anything that could possibly explode. Commander Vrell of the Corthan Trade Syndicate had laughed at that 3rd rule. Humans? Those soft-skinned bipeds who still burned fossil fuels and argued about whose invisible sky entity was better. What could they possibly do with a trading contract? Well, he was about to find out, and spoiler alert, he really should have paid attention during the briefing. The station orbiting their moon, the one humans called Luna, hummed with the nervous energy of first-contact commerce. Vrell's dorsal plates flexed with anticipation as he reviewed the contracts. Simple stuff, really. The humans wanted medical scanners, basic atmospheric processors, maybe some gravity plating for their sad little space stations. In exchange, they offered cultural artifacts, biological samples, and access to their frankly bizarre entertainment media. Fair trade? Easy money? What could go wrong? Enter Marcus Webb. Marcus was not what Vrell expected from humanity's first official trade negotiator. Most species sent their finest, their most decorated officials. Humans sent a man who showed up 20 minutes late holding a paper cup of something called coffee, wearing a jacket that had definitely seen better decades, and sporting a grin that immediately made Vrell's translator Chip glitch, trying to process the appropriate threat assessment. "Morning," Marcus said, dropping into the anti-gravity chair with all the grace of a dropped sack of wet sand. "Sorry I'm late. Station coffee maker's broken. Had to go 3 levels down. You folks don't happen to have any creamer, do you?" "No?" "Right. Alien biology, my bad." Vrell's mandibles clicked in what he hoped conveyed professional patience. "Shall we begin the negotiations, Representative Webb?" "Marcus is fine. Representative makes me sound important." He pulled out a battered datapad. The screen cracked in 2 places. "So, you guys want to sell us some tech? We give you some stuff. Everybody's happy. Pretty straightforward, yeah?" "Indeed." Vrell projected the contract terms into the holographic display. "As per Galactic Commerce Protocol 7-4, we are restricted from providing certain technologies to developing civilizations. Nothing that could be weaponized, nothing that exceeds your current technological threshold by more than 0.5 standard deviations." Marcus scrolled through the list, nodding. "Makes sense. Don't want us blowing ourselves up before we can buy more stuff from you." "That is not precisely how I would phrase it. But yes, the preservation of trading partners is economically advantageous." "Uh-huh." Marcus took a long sip of his coffee. "Quick question. This list mentions weapons, but what about, say, tools?" Vrell's secondary eyelids blinked. "Tools are permitted, provided they meet the technological threshold requirements." "Great, great. And if a tool could theoretically be used as a weapon, but like really theoretically, that cool?" A prickle of unease ran down Vrell's dorsal ridge. "Could you provide a specific example?" Marcus reached into his jacket pocket. Vrell's security detail immediately tensed, 3 appendages reaching for plasma restraints. Marcus froze, one hand still in his pocket, eyebrows raised. "Whoa! Easy there, Jumpy. I'm just grabbing my lighter." "Your what?" "Lighter. Fire starter. Little portable combustion device." Marcus slowly withdrew a small metal rectangle, brushing his thumb across a wheel. A tiny flame appeared, dancing orange and yellow. "See? For lighting cigarettes, or candles, or marshmallows if you're camping. Very versatile tool, the humble lighter." Vrell relaxed slightly. Primitive combustion technology. well within acceptable parameters. That is permitted, yes, though I fail to see why you would need to import such basic technology. Oh no, I don't want to import these. I want to know if we can export them. The words hung in the recycled station air like a bad smell. Export them, Vrell repeated slowly. Yeah, see, I did my homework before coming here. Read through about 200 pages of Galactic trade law. Super fun stuff, by the way. Really riveting. Put me right to sleep on the shuttle ride up. But I noticed something interesting in subsection 12 of the technology restriction clauses. Marcus leaned forward, and his grin took on a quality that made Vrell deeply uncomfortable. You can't sell us advanced weapons, but there's nothing in there about us selling you primitive ones. Why would we want primitive weapons? Vrell clicked his mandibles in amusement. We have plasma rifles, particle beams, molecular disruptors. Sure. Big guns for big threats. But tell me, Commander, when was the last time your people fought in an environment where none of that stuff worked? Vrell's amusement died. What do you mean? Marcus held up the lighter again. This works anywhere there's oxygen. In magnetic fields that scramble your fancy particle weapons. In radiation zones that fry your plasma conduits. On planets where the atmospheric pressure makes beam weapons about as effective as a strongly worded letter. This little guy? He flicked it again. This just works. It is a small flame. What possible military application could... Ever heard of Greek fire? Napalm? Molotov cocktails? Marcus set the lighter down on the table. Humans have been setting things on fire to solve problems since we figured out how to make sparks. We've gotten really good at it. And the best part? It's all low-tech enough that your trade restrictions don't apply. Vrell felt his heat regulation system kick into overdrive. You cannot be suggesting... Oh, I'm not suggesting anything. I'm offering. See, Earth has warehouses full of surplus military equipment, flamethrowers, incendiary rounds, thermite grenades, all chemical-based, all completely analog. Perfect for situations where your shields, jammers, and electronic warfare suites are about as useful as a chocolate teapot. This is absurd, Vrell sputtered. No species would trade advanced technology for primitive fire weapons. Marcus pulled out his cracked datapad and turned it toward Vrell. Got 3 contract offers already. The Vexian Confederacy wants flamethrowers for clearing out tunnel systems on their contested mining worlds. Turns out plasma weapons kind of suck in enclosed spaces, what with all the explosive decompression. The Duluth Collective needs incendiary munitions for dealing with that silicon-based pest infestation on their agricultural planets. And the Merchant Guild? They want portable, non-electronic fire starters for their deep space cargo haulers. Because nothing's sadder than freezing to death next to a fusion reactor that won't turn on because of a software glitch. Vrell stared at the datapad. The offers were real, the credentials verified. His carefully planned negotiation was spiraling into territory that made his legal processor ache. But the council rules, he managed weakly, don't apply to us selling you stuff, only you selling us stuff. Kind of a one-way street, legally speaking. Your negotiators really should have made that bilateral. Marcus leaned back, fingers laced behind his head. So here's my counteroffer. You give us the medical scanners and atmospheric processors we want. In exchange, we'll give you the cultural artifacts, biological samples, and media access we already agreed to. Plus, we throw in a starter package of various combustion-based tools and weapon systems. Think of it as a welcome to the Galactic marketplace gift. This is highly irregular, Vrell protested, his dorsal plates flaring in agitation. Irregular isn't illegal. I checked, multiple times. Had 3 different legal AIs review the trade protocols. Even ran it past one of your own Galactic Commerce Authority consultants. Lovely person. Tentacles for days. She said, and I quote, "Technically permissible, though strategically inadvisable for the buyer. But hey, you folks are adults. Well, adult equivalents. You can make your own choices." Vrell's translator struggled with the mix of legal terminology and casual human idiom. "I need to consult with my superiors." "Take your time. I'm going to grab another coffee. Want anything?" "No?" "Right. Alien biology. I really need to stop offering." Marcus stood and strolled out of the negotiation chamber, leaving Vrell alone with his security detail and a growing sense that humanity's reputation for being unpredictable might have been severely understated. 3 hours later, Vrell sat in his quarters, nursing a glass of fermented kelthroot extract and reviewing the disaster that was his first human contact negotiation. The call to his superiors had gone about as well as could be expected, which was to say, terribly. "Let me understand this correctly," High Administrator Gorth had said, all 4 of his eye clusters focused with painful intensity. "The humans, who we assumed would be grateful for whatever scraps of technology we offered, have instead turned the negotiation around and are now offering to sell us weapons." "Primitive weapons," Vrell corrected. "Fire-based systems, completely analog." "And this is legal?" "According to our own trade protocols, yes. The restrictions only apply to what advanced civilizations can sell to primitive ones, not the reverse." A long silence. Then, how primitive are we talking? "Some of their designs date back thousands of their years. And they still work?" "According to Representative Webb, fire tends to be fairly consistent across millennia." Another pause. "What are the other syndicate commanders doing?" "The Vexian commander has already signed a preliminary agreement. Apparently their ground forces have been struggling with tunnel warfare on the Keltor mining colonies. Their plasma weapons keep causing cave-ins." "And he thinks human fire weapons will help?" "He thinks they cannot make the situation worse, and they might work in environments where our technology fails." Vrell took another drink. "Administrator, I think we may have made an error in our assessment of humanity." "Explain." "We assumed their primitive status meant they would be easy to trade with. Simple wants, simple negotiations. But Representative Webb spent 3 hours reading our trade protocols and found a loophole that our own legal specialists missed. Or perhaps did not think to close. Because what advanced species would want primitive weapons?" "A species," Gorth said slowly, "that encounters situations where advanced weapons do not function." "Precisely. This Webb, is he their best negotiator?" Vrell thought about Marcus's cracked datapad, terrible timekeeping, and casual demeanor. "I genuinely cannot tell if he is brilliant or simply lucky. Those are not mutually exclusive categories." Gorth's image leaned forward. "Commander Vrell, I am authorizing you to proceed with the trade agreement. But I want detailed reports on every weapon system they offer, every application they suggest, and every market they might be targeting. If humans can find one loophole in our protocols, they can find others." "Understood, Administrator." The call ended, leaving Vrell alone with his drink and his thoughts. Somewhere on this station, Marcus Webb was probably drinking his coffee, completely unaware that he had just triggered a comprehensive review of galactic trade law that would take legal experts years to untangle. Or, Vrell thought, with a chill running down his spine, maybe Marcus knew exactly what he had done, and that was somehow worse. The next morning, if you could call it that in a space station where time was more suggestion than reality, Marcus arrived exactly on time. This immediately put Vrell on edge. Yesterday's lateness had seemed like casual human disorganization. Today's punctuality felt like a power move. "Morning, Commander." Marcus set down 2 cups on the conference table. "Brought you something. It's called hot chocolate. Non-toxic to Corthan biology. I checked with your medical database. Thought you might want to try it." Vrell eyed the steaming cup suspiciously. "You accessed our medical database?" "Public terminal in the food court. Your security's pretty good, but your public information architecture could use some work. Very user-friendly once you get past the initial language barriers." Marcus took a sip from his own cup. "So did your bosses sign off on the deal?" "They have authorized me to proceed, pending detailed specification reviews of your offered materials." "Excellent. Brought a whole presentation." Marcus pulled out his battered datapad, and suddenly the holographic display filled with schematics, chemical formulas, and what appeared to be historical combat footage. "Let's start with the basics. Flamethrowers." The display showed a human soldier carrying a cylindrical tank with a nozzle attachment, liquid fire arcing through the air in a terrifying orange stream. Invented around 1900 by human reckoning. Super simple concept. Pressurized flammable liquid, ignition source, nozzle for projection. No electronics, no complex moving parts. Just physics and chemistry doing their thing. Marcus advanced the slide. "Now, I know what you're thinking. Why would anyone want this when you have plasma weapons that can melt through ship hulls?" "That is indeed my question. Because plasma weapons need power cells, magnetic containment, thermal regulation systems, all things that can fail, be jammed, or get fried by radiation. A flamethrower?" Marcus grinned. "That just needs fuel and a spark. Works in electromagnetic dead zones. Works on high radiation worlds. Works during solar flares that turn your fancy guns into expensive paperweights. Plus, fire spreads. That's kind of its whole thing." Vrell's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "The Vexian tunnel systems." "Exactly. Send fire down a tunnel. It finds all the little nooks and crannies your plasma bolts miss. Plus, it consumes oxygen, which is super inconvenient if you're, say, a hostile force trying to breathe in that tunnel. Very effective area denial weapon. The Vexians get it. They've already ordered 5,000 units." 5,000? Vrell's dorsal plates flared. That is a significant order. They're fighting on 17 contested mining worlds. They did the math. Marcus switched slides. "Next up, thermite. This one's my personal favorite because it's basically angry chemistry." The display showed a bright white flame burning through a metal plate like it was butter. Thermite is an aluminum and metal oxide mixture. When ignited, it burns at over 2,000 degrees Celsius. Melts through steel, concrete, most armor plating. Cannot be extinguished with water. Actually gets angrier if you try. No electronic components whatsoever. Just powder and a magnesium fuse. What possible application would require such destructive capability? Breaching, demolition, disabling equipment. The Merchant Guild wants it for emergency hull cutting, actually. Say a cargo ship has a mechanical failure and the automatic doors won't open. Send in a crew with thermite charges, cut through the bulkhead, rescue whoever's trapped inside. Your plasma cutters need power. Thermite just needs someone with a match and a decent throwing arm. Vrell found himself leaning forward despite his reservations. And the Duluth Collective's silicon-based pest problem? Marcus's grin widened. "Oh, that's where it gets fun. See, silicon-based life forms have a very different temperature tolerance than carbon-based ones. Your standard energy weapons. They adapt. They evolve. They develop reflective carapaces or heat dissipation systems. But sustained chemical combustion? That's a different kind of heat. It lingers. It spreads. It doesn't shut off cleanly. He pulled up footage of something that looked disturbingly like a cross between a spider and a crystal formation, skittering across a field. Then a burst of flame, and the creature's movements became erratic, its structure fracturing. The Duluth agricultural scientists have been fighting these things for 3 growing seasons. They tried particle weapons, plasma burners, even biological agents. Nothing worked long-term. But good old-fashioned fire? Turns out silicon doesn't like rapid thermal expansion. Cracks their exoskeletons, disrupts their molecular cohesion. Plus, we can mix in chemical additives that specifically target silicon-based molecular bonds. You have chemicals that target specific molecular structures? Oh yeah. Humans have been killing things for a long time. We've gotten very creative about it. Marcus switched to another slide. White phosphorus, for instance, burns on contact with air, creates smoke that's toxic to most known respiratory systems. Napalm, which is basically jellied gasoline that sticks to whatever it hits and keeps burning. Magnesium flares that burn so bright, they can permanently damage optical sensors. All low-tech, all reliable, all surprisingly effective in situations where high-tech solutions fail. Vrell took a cautious sip of the hot chocolate Marcus had brought. It was actually quite pleasant, which somehow made this entire situation more unsettling. You have given this considerable thought. Had about 6 months to prepare once we knew first contact was happening. Did a lot of reading, military history mostly. Turns out humanity's history of warfare is basically one long story of finding increasingly creative ways to set things on fire or make them explode. Marcus leaned back. But here's the thing that really sold your competitors, and I think it'll sell you too. He pulled up a cost analysis chart. A plasma rifle runs what? About 15,000 Galactic credits? Needs regular maintenance, replacement power cells, software updates? A flamethrower? 2,000 credits for the unit. Maybe 300 for enough fuel for a standard engagement. No maintenance beyond basic cleaning. No software to update. No proprietary parts that only work with specific manufacturers. You are offering military equipment at commercial prices. We're offering simple tools that happen to have military applications. There's a difference, legally speaking. And yeah, we can make them cheap because we've been making them for a long time. Economies of scale, mass production, all that good stuff. Marcus folded his hands. Look, Commander, I'm going to level with you. Earth needs what you're selling. Medical technology that doesn't require 5 years of research approval. Atmospheric processors so we can actually terraform Mars before our great-great-grandchildren die of old age. Gravity plating so our astronauts don't lose bone density on long missions. And in exchange, you offer fire and chaos. I offer reliability and simplicity. Your technology is amazing, no question, but it's also complicated. Lots of moving parts, lots of things that can break. Our stuff? It's been working the same way for centuries. That's not primitive, Commander. That's proven. Vrell set down his cup, his mind churning through implications. The Galactic Council will not be pleased. The Galactic Council wrote trade protocols that only restricted what you could sell us, not what we could sell you. That seems like an oversight on their part. Marcus's expression softened slightly. Look, I get it. You didn't expect humans to come to the table with anything worth bargaining. You thought we'd be grateful for whatever you offered and just hand over whatever you wanted. But we've been trading, negotiating, and yes, fighting, for thousands of years. We know how this game works. This is not a game. Everything's a game if you keep score. And right now, Earth is 3 contracts ahead. Marcus pulled out a small device, definitely not standard issue. Tell you what, I'm authorized to offer you an exclusive distribution agreement for your sector. The Vexians and Duluth Collective are getting specific systems for specific problems. But you get first pick of our entire catalog. Flamethrowers, incendiaries, chemical weapons, even some of our more exotic historical weapons if you want to get really creative. In exchange for the full technology package we asked for, plus a 10% discount on future purchases, and one more thing. Marcus's casual demeanor dropped away, revealing something sharper underneath. Information. We want to know what's out there, Commander. What threats exist beyond our solar system? What environments we might encounter? What situations might arise where our low-tech solutions could be useful? You want military intelligence. We want to not die because we walked into a situation unprepared. There's a difference. Marcus met Vrell's gaze steadily. Humans are new to this whole galactic community thing. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to stumble around breaking things and annoying people. But we'd prefer to do it while properly informed, rather than blundering into a war we don't understand with weapons that don't work. Vrell's translator crackled slightly, processing the subtext beneath Marcus's words. You believe conflict is inevitable. I believe that in a galaxy full of different species with different needs and different resources, somebody's eventually going to decide violence is the answer. Maybe not today, maybe not for decades, but eventually. Marcus picked up his lighter again, turning it over in his hands. When that happens, I want humanity to have options. More importantly, I want our potential allies to have options. Options that don't fail when the power goes out or the computers crash. That is a remarkably pessimistic worldview. That's a remarkably human worldview. We've seen what happens when you're unprepared, when your fancy technology fails and all you're left with is hope and good intentions. Marcus flicked the lighter, the small flame dancing between them. This is more reliable than hope. And I think, if you're honest with yourself, you know there are situations where you'd rather have this than any weapon in your arsenal. Vrell was quiet for a long moment, watching the flame. His people had been part of the galactic community for 3 centuries. They had advanced weapons, sophisticated defenses, complex treaties and alliances. And yet, Marcus's words resonated with something his military training had always emphasized: redundancy, backup systems, alternative solutions. What happened when the primary systems failed? I will recommend approval of your exclusive distribution offer, Vrell said finally, with the inclusion of the information sharing clause. But I have one condition of my own. Name it. You will provide training for our military personnel in the proper use of these weapons. Not just operation, but maintenance, tactical deployment, safety protocols. If we are to integrate human combustion technology into our forces, I want it done properly. Marcus's grin returned, but this time it held genuine respect. Done. We'll even throw in some of our combat veterans as consultants, people who've actually used this stuff in real situations. Fair warning, though, they tend to have opinions, and they're not shy about sharing them. I would expect nothing less from humans. Vrell extended his primary appendage across the table. Do we have an agreement, Representative Webb? Marcus gripped Vrell's appendage in the human gesture of agreement. We do, Commander. Welcome to humanity's fire sale. Pun absolutely intended. As they shook on the deal, Vrell found himself wondering what his superiors would say when they learned he had just armed the Corthan Trade Syndicate with weapons that predated faster-than-light travel. More pressingly, he wondered what the rest of the galaxy would think when they learned that humans had managed to turn their primitive status into a strategic advantage. Marcus gathered his things, that battered datapad and his lighter both disappearing into his jacket pockets. "One more thing, Commander. Just between us?" "Yes?" "In about 6 months, Earth's going to start offering another product line. Explosives. We've got some really interesting ideas about low-tech demolition charges and chemical-based missiles. Thought you might want first notification when that becomes available." Vrell's dorsal plates flattened in alarm. "You have not mentioned explosives before. Didn't want to overwhelm you on day one. Baby steps, you know. But yeah, if you thought fire was impressive, wait until you see what we can do with properly contained chemical reactions." Marcus headed for the door, pausing at the threshold. "Oh, and Commander, thanks for the fair negotiation. A lot of species would have tried to cheat us or back out once they realized we weren't as helpless as we looked. You played it straight. We appreciate that." Then he was gone, leaving Vrell alone in the conference room with an empty cup of hot chocolate, and the growing realization that humanity's integration into the galactic community was going to be far more complicated than anyone had anticipated. 3 days later, as the contracts were finalized and the first shipments prepared, Vrell received a message from High Administrator Gorth. "Commander, I am looking at the agreement you negotiated. It is comprehensive, fair, and potentially revolutionary for our military capabilities. Well done." "Thank you, Administrator. I am also looking at preliminary reports from our Xenopsychology Division. They believe humans may be the first species to join the galactic community whose primary evolutionary advantage is not physical capability, technological innovation, or psychic aptitude, but rather adaptability and creative problem-solving. That aligns with my assessment. Commander Vrell, do you know what concerns me most about this situation?" "What, Administrator?" "We have been members of the galactic community for 300 years. We have advanced technology, powerful weapons, sophisticated defenses, and it took a human with a cigarette lighter less than 2 days to make me question whether any of that matters when the power goes out." Vrell looked at the small lighter Marcus had left as a gift, sitting on his desk beside a handwritten note that read, "For emergencies, or marshmallows. Marcus." "Yes, Administrator," Vrell said quietly. "That concerns me as well. Keep me informed of all future negotiations with Representative Webb. Something tells me we have not seen the full extent of humanity's capacity for creative commerce." "I believe you are correct, Administrator." As the communication ended, Vrell picked up the lighter, flicked it once, and watched the flame dance. Somewhere in the station, Marcus Webb was probably drinking terrible coffee and planning his next negotiation. Somewhere in the galaxy, species with advanced technology were about to discover that sometimes the best solution was the simplest one. And somewhere on Earth, humanity was loading cargo ships with fire, chemistry, and a few thousand years of accumulated experience in controlled destruction, ready to teach the galaxy a lesson it had somehow forgotten. Simple tools, in the right hands, were still tools. And humans had very, very creative hands. The flame flickered, steady and reliable, requiring nothing but fuel and air. Sometimes, Vrell thought, primitive was just another word for perfected.